Sanctuary of Healing embraces many effective therapies, and today 4 experienced therapists explain from their own particular fields of expertise how this simple exercise can enhance everyday life, not only to help people suffering chronic illness, but also how it can overcome fatigue and put that extra zest and joy back into life for everyone. The team explain the logic in simple language and from their own therapy viewpoint, how this short exercise reboots the body and mind. The constructive rest position.
Hello, this is Tony Clarkson from the Sanctuary of Healing. And today I'm joined by 3 of my colleagues. Charlotte, who is our Pilates expert, working totally with the physical body. We have Malcolm, who is our psychotherapist. And we have Susan, who is our head therapist. So hi to all of you, and thank you for joining me here today. And we're here to show you a technique that's going to help you with fatigue, exhaustion, and it will be very useful for anybody with an autoimmune disease. And so my colleagues here are going to explain different aspects of this, and then we're going to show you the technique. And so let's just get into it now. Welcome to the Sanctuary. And what I'd like to discuss, I'd like the different aspects on a particular problem that we see so much at the Sanctuary. We have people with MS, multiple sclerosis, on a regular basis. We have people with ME, and often that has another name, chronic fatigue. Some people call it post-viral infection. Then we have other autoimmune diseases that crop up. And there's a commonality between all those. And it's only by getting our heads together from these different aspects of what we do that we've realized there's actually something we can do about it. And one of the things I'd like to discuss today, and just one of the things, is how the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, impinge physically on our body and also mentally on how we feel and how we are. And so, first of all, I wonder whether I could hand over to you, Malcolm, and you could explain the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay. The way I look at this, and the way I often explain it to the clients I come across, is that inside of us we have an old mechanism, a mechanism that developed sometimes when we were Stone Age people, and a mechanism that we share with other mammalian life, that has to do with allowing us to address or to approach stressful situations. Now, you've already mentioned that it comes under the heading of the autonomic nervous system. And it's something that when we were Stone Age people, if you walked out of your cave and you came across a saber-toothed tiger, would kick in immediately to enable you to address that situation. And the autonomic nervous system split into 2 parts. One branch of it is the sympathetic nervous system, the other branch of it is the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system acts as an accelerator, it ramps you up, it prepares you for action. It is that part of our development that we know as the fight or flight mechanism. The other side, the parasympathetic nervous system, is a brake. It slows you down, calms you down. There's an interplay between these 2 mechanisms all the time. And you can see it, for instance, particularly in really ordinary activities, when you have a near miss on the motorway when you're driving. There's this brief surge of adrenaline where your heart starts beating and you start to have anxiety. And if nothing's happened, very quickly you calm down. And that's the interplay between the accelerator and the brake. Now, what happens is that this is all about balance. It's all about homeostasis when we are well. And I like to think of these mechanisms as almost like a traffic light system. So when the traffic light's on green, we're living our life in the parasympathetic nervous system, and we're doing life. We can interact socially comfortably, we can live life easily, and we're generally calm. But when situations happen to us, trauma as a child, ongoing stress, we're being bullied at work, things that are occurring, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in. And there's a whole cascade of things that happen at that point in time that eventually may well have an effect if these things happen. So when the sympathetic nervous system kicks in, there's a number of things that are occurring in the body. And this is why trauma and stress are body-related activities. They're not just mental. So we have a situation where we're under stress, that there's a part of the brain called the amygdala that picks that up. The amygdala acts a little bit like a smoke alarm. It's there signaling if there's any danger. If the amygdala believes there's some danger, it's like sets off an alarm, if you will. There's smoke here, there's something that needs to happen. And that has a cascade of effects in terms of the brain. It sets off the HPA axis, noradrenaline and adrenaline flood the body, ready for us to take action, ready for us to fight off the saber-toothed tiger or to run away with it. Now, when that's done under normal circumstances, everything settles down, parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and we get on with our life. But when we're in situations of chronic ongoing stress, something else happens. In that there's another chemical that begins to get released that's called cortisol. And cortisol mimics adrenaline a little bit, but it has some other really interesting facets to all of this. And it can be so toxic to the body that people have called it corrosive cortisol. And some of the things that cortisol is linked to have been things like heart disease potentially, cancers potentially, some autoimmune diseases, some fertility issues, etc., etc. And we need to find a way of being able to reduce the cortisol level, if you will, to move from the red, amber states that we live in back into the green state in order for us to live life well again. So recovery, I think recovery can be thought of as a way of moving back from red, amber, back into green. And what we have, for instance, is this particular intervention that might well be part of a whole bunch of other things, but fundamentally can begin that process of moving us through the traffic lights back into health again.
And so what we're looking at here is a physical intervention, an exercise, if you like, that will move in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder whether, Charlotte, I know you agree with all this, and it's only when we put our heads together we realise this problem from various different aspects. But from a body point of view, I wonder whether you just care to tell us a little bit about the psoas muscle and its relationship with what Malcolm's been talking about.
Yeah, so for me, teaching Pilates is not just, well, it's about the body, but Pilates is a mind and body practice. And one of the major muscles, the psoas, is the only connection between the lower limbs and the upper limbs of the body. So the psoas muscle travels from the top of your inner thigh and is attached to your 5 vertebrae of your lumbar spine. There's a major, there's a minor psoas, and it's part of a group called the iliac psoas, There's one more muscle called the iliacus. But the major psoas is the muscle that's so interconnected as it goes into, like I said, it goes from the inner thigh and attaches to the 5 vertebrae, which then there's an intersection with that muscle, with the diaphragm, which, as we know, our breath really brings us into that state of the parasympathetic nervous system that we can calm down. So if we're in the fight or flight mode, as what Malcolm said, automatically the psoas muscle contracts. So it acts then again into the body and into our other internal organs, because it's very closely related and interknitted with all our other organs as well, and our respiratory system. And this junction here comes between where our solar plexus is. So the psoas comes between where it ends and the diaphragm. There is the solar plexus. So the psoas muscle is directly connected with our gut connection, with our brain. So with our brains and our gut reaction going through into our energy systems of the body through the chakras, as we know.
So potentially what we're saying is, I think what you're saying is that to relax this muscle actually changes the fight and flight into non-fight and flight.
Yes. So basically there are techniques that we can do that have been used since the early 20th century, exercises to actually, if you relax your psoas, it gives your body the time to come out of the sympathetic into the parasympathetic nervous system quite easily. And again, it affects the whole energy lines through the body. So it's an extremely important muscle. Yeah, absolutely.
So this muscle is actually linked to the brain, if you like.
It is linked to the brain.
It's linked to the brain.
Yeah, and to the heart, to all your other internal organs, reproductive organs. So it has a massive effect on the way the body works. So if you're constantly in a fight or flight mode, as what Malcolm said, that corrosive cortisol, it's just eating away at the body. So we need to learn to relax. And until we do that, the psoas won't switch off, because the psoas actually massages the organs and has an effect on how they react. So it's not only just the cortisol, but how it affects maybe other problems, heart problems as well, liver problems, adrenal problems.
I'll let you into a secret on how I found out about this, because I come from a psychotherapeutic background, as Malcolm does. But I found that as I was getting older and older, I was getting a fatigue level during the day, especially after my lunch. And I was getting to the point where I thought, I've reached that point where I need a rest. I've heard of older people having a rest. But actually what I do is this technique, I found it through some other source. I didn't know what you've just told me. I didn't know what Malcolm told me, but I just did it. And my levels of joy, my levels of relaxation, and my levels of energy doubled in the afternoon. And so I just put it into my day-to-day life. And I'd no idea that there was this beautiful logic behind that. And so when you came along and told me the physical, and Malcolm and I debated out the emotional and psychological, it was like eureka. I really understand what this is doing, and what an enormous amount of people this will help.
And I think it's only just, it's a postural muscle as well with Pilates, but also an emotional muscle, our only emotional muscle.
Exactly.
And there are techniques, ideokinesiology as well, which I'm quite interested in, which are levels where we just relax on the floor in different positions, and really you just imagine different lines through the body relaxing, which just absolutely sinks the body like caramel into relaxation mode. Wow. So you have that quiet time for the body.
And I think what this all points to is that intimate link between mind and body. That this, that for too long, I guess, we've talked about as though these two things are separate. you know, and actually
They're
they're
not separate.
probably not.
No.
And there's a load of evidence now that's beginning to suggest that very, very strongly there's this intimate connection, and he can work with the mind through the body. He can work with the body through the mind.
Logic would also say that everything must be connected. Sue, you're listening quietly there to these opinions. You work on a day-to-day basis. You've had very intensive involvement with our clients here with autoimmune diseases. How do you think this is going to help them, this technique?
It will help enormously. I believe that there is a massive connection between our health, and when we're out of balance, that's when the illnesses start to come through. I also believe that the psoas muscle is our emotional core, and because it works so well with the diaphragm, that when we're in a state of stress or fear, that's when it kind of like tightens, and at that point is when it kind of like, I always describe it that people have a short, sharp breath. Yeah. And during my treatments, I'll sometimes say to people, I'll help them move into relaxation by saying, if you just want to take a lovely deep breath, and before I've even said breath, they've already gone, and it's like, whoa, what states are these? Yeah, we've got to help them move away from that state and put them back into stillness, really. And so I kind of like, you know, when the body is so in that state, it's just so destructive to your adrenal glands. It's just exhausting them, and then obviously you exhaust your adrenal glands. The next thing you do is you deplete your immune system, and then so if you can boost that immune system back, it's just going to increase this recovery period immensely and also help people tremendously.
And I think one of the things we have seen with all our clients is fatigue, exhaustion. Yeah. You know, they can move up out of that, as so beautifully explained. But they do, don't they? You lie there for 20 minutes in this position, just 20 minutes a day, and all of a sudden your body has come out of that fight and flight.
Yeah. And I do it now. And I find it has like almost like a cumulative effect, where when you do it daily, it almost becomes like you miss it if you haven't done it, because you genuinely feel so much better and energized after doing it. It's fantastic.
Is that the snoring I hear when I walk down the corridor past your room at lunchtime?
For about 20 minutes, at about 12:30.
Yeah. We all tiptoe down to keep you.
No, I think it's great, and you know, anything that's going to help people naturally boost their own natural immune system, it just has to be. Yeah. You've got to do it. You've got to.
And you're not the only one, are you, in our staff? I know Vanessa, and I know others who do this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because the difference, I can't tell you the difference, is just enormous. And if you've got an autoimmune, you're just changing the afternoon. Just do it, if you just do it once a day for 20 minutes. But the thing to emphasize as well, I think, about this is it's not sleep. I joked about snoring, but it's not about sleeping. You don't want to sleep.
No, it's like going into that inner stillness. Yeah. And I think a lot of clients that we have, they find it really difficult to get to that place. And so I think that's another reason why you should do it every day, because the more often you do it, the easier it is to get to that place of stillness and stop there.
And it's a very simple position, which we're going to demonstrate that anybody can do. You don't have to be a yogi and get your head, you know, your leg around the back of your head. You can it's just laying on the floor and visualizing the muscles literally letting go and relaxing. So it's a very simple thing to do.
It is, and my 93-year-old mother does it every day. It's not something that you're limited. It's so simple that anybody can do it. It is. Okay, well, we're going to show that muscle. Charlotte's going to explain now and demonstrate on Susan that exercise, the 20-minute exercise. And so we hope that that has been of use, and that it'll become so clear how easy it is for you to do this. And so on that, we'd like to say goodbye, and we'll go straight into you seeing the technique being done now by Charlotte and by Susan. Thank you very much for watching. We hope it's been of use to you. If you practice it on a daily basis, we know it will be. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, so we're going to get Sue into the constructive rest position, which is the ideal position to completely relax the psoas muscles. So as you can see, Sue's laying on her back. You can use a mat or just lay on the carpet. And we need to think about the head position, so you may need a cushion. For example, if I take Sue's head cushion away, you can see her chin's more up to the ceiling and her eye line's looking back, so her spine, her head isn't in line with her spine. So I'm just going to give Sue just a cushion. You can get one off the settee, and just so that you can see that the eye line is looking forward, so the neck's in line with the spine. We want to be in what we call a neutral position, so that the muscles are laying in the correct position on the body. So we talk about a neutral position. So if you just get your fingers, you've got two protruding bones here, the hip bones. So if you just find those hip bones, and I just want you to think that they're like a pair of headlights up towards the ceiling. Do they feel like they're there? It may be that sometimes people tilt the pelvis towards them, so the hip bones are facing towards them, or they may feel that the hip bones are facing too far away. And in that position, we're not in a neutral pelvis. We need the pelvis to be neutral for the psoas, the hip flexors, to lay correctly as they should. So the hip bone should be facing up towards the ceiling, and the pubic bone again is up towards the ceiling. So you've got a triangle here in the pelvis. Our feet are hip width apart, so again, where our hip bones are, our feet should be there. You can have the legs resting here, or if you prefer, if you have some lower back problem, it may be that you want just to draw the knees together. That'll just ease off some tension in the lower back as well. Our fingertips just reaching down towards the bottom of the mat, and just feel an openness across the chest. And all then I want you to do is relax. We're just going to relax. We're going to take some deep breaths in through the nose and exhale out through the mouth. And as you inhale, feel as though when you inhale, you're expanding the rib cage. So we're taking a deep breath in and taking that breath down into the belly, and you'll feel the belly expand. And as you exhale, ridding all the air out through softly pursed lips, drawing navel to spine. Now as you inhale, Sue, this time, feel as though you're taking the breath down the back of the spine. And as you exhale, feel as though the breath then's turned up and coming up through the front of the body. So we're taking a circle effect through the body with the breath. So we're breathing through the nose, take the breath down the full length of the spine. And then as we exhale, we feel that breath coming round through the front of the body. So if you imagine a circle of energy as you're breathing. As soon as we start to breathe in this way, the nervous system again starts to come down. So if Sue felt maybe anxious or stressful before she laid on the mat, now as soon as she starts to breathe in this way, her parasympathetic nervous system is starting to come into the body. So Sue is now starting to relax. And the hip flexors here, which are always mainly overworked and exhausted, are now starting to relax. So it's having an effect through Sue's organs, through her breathing is helping everything just to come down. Think of the body as like caramel. So as you continue to breathe, Sue, in that cycle of breath, circling down the back of the spine and up the front of the body, imagine you have a waterfall at the knees, and the waterfall is coming down to the thigh bones, and it's just melting down. The water's just trickling down the front of the thighs into the thigh bone, so we can really relax in the hip area. And then I'd like you to visualize that you've got a trickling water from the knees down to the ankles. So as you breathe, you can feel the thigh bones relaxing, you can feel the shins relaxing. And then have an image that the feet and the eyes are just in a low pool of water, just softly relaxing and melting. So with these visualizations, it just helps the muscles to completely relax, the body to relax, the mind to relax, and just helps Sue come into some stillness. Relaxing the face, relaxing the jaw. And here you'd lay for up to 20 minutes once a day. So this is the constructive rest position. So from the constructive rest position that Sue's just demonstrated, we can move into a further position, which is a fantastic position to nurture the psoas. So Sue, if you wouldn't mind just coming onto your side into a fetal position. And I'm just going to give Sue an extra block just so that her head's in line with the spine and she's fully comfortable. And don't hang on too tight with your hands, just try and relax. So you really want to imagine that you are in a fetal position in the womb, safe, and everything is just completely relaxed and let go. And as we did in the previous position, just imagine your breath. So we're just going to take a breath in, Sue, wide and full breath in, down into the belly. And as you exhale again, just feel as though you're releasing all the way through the hips and up into the body. And again, just flow with that breath and feel that you can almost imagine the internal organs just letting go, giving them some space, just giving them some release. And again, Sue will be coming back into her parasympathetic nervous system here. So try not to clasp the hands too tightly. We want everything just to completely let go and be relaxed. No tension in the body whatsoever. And again, this could be done on a mat in this way, or you could do this laying in bed. You just want to be relaxed and have that sense of fully letting go in a quiet environment.